After you consider it carefully, inform me at any time. The Dark Sage King must be eliminated. At that time, we sages will go to the Dark Forbidden Zone together, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said in a low voice. Hanju nodded and cancelled the dream. He opened his eyes and asked in his mind, did Heavenly Venerate Xiandu lie to me just now? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No! Hanju's expression softened. Choshilai and Heavenly Venerate Wufa had already been enslaved by the primordial heavenly prison. If the sages had any schemes, they would naturally tell him. Hanju was still worried. He suddenly had a bold thought. Should he enslave all the sages other than Heavenly Venerate Xiandu? No! Too risky. Back then, enslaving Choshilai had offended Kundi and all the big shots in the deity realm of the ruins of End. It was not beneficial for this trip. Hanju adjusted his state of mind and started to increase his strength. The grand unity aspect was necessary. Every Dharma idol he cultivated could increase his strength. 100 years passed. Hanju's cultivation and strength had been raised to the limit, but he had only mastered 25 new Dharma idols. Compared to his previous breakthrough, it was much worse. Hanju felt an unseen force suppressing his cultivation of the grand unity aspect. The new Fiend Celestial Dharma idols he had cultivated were the Danger Fiend Celestial, the Dark Chaotic Fiend Celestial, the Order Fiend Celestial, the Enlightened Fiend Celestial, the Barefoot Fiend Celestial, the Mad Flow Fiend Celestial, the Lawful Fiend Celestial, the Fulfilling Dream Fiend Celestial, the Great Compassion Fiend Celestial, the Clear Void Fiend Celestial, the Evil Purification Fiend Celestial, the Righteous Fiend Celestial, the Spirit Severing Fiend Celestial, the Tao Merit Fiend Celestial, the Three-Body Fiend Celestial, the Heaven-Crushing Fiend Celestial, the Unparalleled Fiend Celestial, the Weakness Fiend Celestial, the Defiance Fiend Celestial, the Great Night Fiend Celestial, the Black Hole Fiend Celestial, the Destruction Fiend Celestial, the Six-Eared Fiend Celestial, the Great Mystical Power Fiend Celestial, and the Seven-Colored Fiend Celestial. Hanju began the simulation trial and first fought Li Zizai. A total of 249 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols appeared and killed Li Zizai in 3 breaths of time. Hanju continued the simulation trial. After hundreds of times, he discovered that he couldn't erase Li Zizai. The power of freedom was too powerful and could protect his soul. Li Zizai's great Tao was illusory and very powerful. However, it was not the Fiend Celestial Dharma idol's match. Hanju began to try not to use the Grand Unity aspect to fight. He used his Dharma treasure. He used the Primordial Judgment Sword in his right hand and the Killing Tao token in his left. He used all his defensive supreme treasures and fought with his mystical powers. An hour later, he killed Li Zizai. Not enough! Continue! Several years later, it had to be said that in terms of explosive power, the Grand Unity aspect was the most ferocious. Hanju checked the emails. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor received a lecture from a mysterious mighty figure. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Yangdu was attacked by a mysterious race, X120938. Your son Han Tuo fled the Dark Falling Prison. Your good friend Liu Bei was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your good friend Shi Dudao was attacked by your good friend Li Daokong. Your good friend Jiang Dugu has released your good friend Primordial Yuan Phoenix. Your son Han Tuo has entered the deity realm of the ruins of End. Hanju was stunned. Why did Han Tuo escape? He was already prepared to take the risk to save him. He pinched his fingers to deduce. After leaving the Dark Falling Prison, he could capture Han Tuo's karma and deduce his situation. However, it involved the Dark Falling Prison. He still could not guess what had happened previously. Is Han Tuo being watched by the Dark Sage King? Hanju asked in his mind. 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. 10 billion was nothing. Not for the time being. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief when he saw these words. Thinking about it carefully, it was normal. The Dark Sage King didn't know him at all. Hanju's son naturally didn't catch his eye. Capturing Han Tuo should be a coincidence. Since he was fine, Hanju didn't take the risk. The matter of dealing with the Dark Sage King was pushed back. He had previously calculated that the Dark Sage King would take billions of years to enter the Heavenly Tao. It was still very early to deal with him. After billions of years, Hanju was confident that he could surpass the Great Tao. If the Dark Sage King could surpass ancestor Shi Tian, how could he let him act recklessly? In the end, although the Dark Sage King was strong, he was inferior to a transcendent Tao expert and a great Tao divine spirit. He was still a pawn. After 20,000 years, Murongchi had already transformed. Hanju teleported to the second Tao field and let him out. Murongchi opened his eyes and discovered that he was not in the 100-peak Immortal River. He couldn't help but be stunned. Then, he became excited. He could feel that his physical strength far exceeded before. This sort of potential that could be seen with the naked eye was too satisfying. He finally understood why mighty figures value Junior's potential the most. Potential was too important. Murongchi knelt in front of him and kept kowtowing. Hanju said, "From today onwards, you will stay here. Do you know what your body is?" Murongchi looked up and asked, "What?" "Chaotic Fiend Celestial." Murongchi's eyes widened. He had heard of the legend of the Chaotic Fiend Celestial. Could the mysterious power surging in his body be the legendary Great Tao power? Hanju said, "In the future, I will create even more Chaotic Fiend Celestials. All of them will cultivate here and leave after reaching the primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. I want you to lead the Chaotic Fiend Celestials. Are you willing?" "More." Murongchi was shocked, and his breathing quickened. "I won't let you down." "Yes, I've already isolated you from the myriad worlds projection. You can stay here in peace from now on." "Yes." Murongchi wasn't stupid. Hanju wanted to nurture a force that even the hidden sect did not know. He was filled with admiration. As expected of Grandmaster, he kept creating trump cards. After the hidden sect became stronger, there would indeed be unstable elements. Back then, the Tao sect ruled the world, but they still broke up under the eyes of the Tao ancestor. In addition, the Chaotic Fiend Celestial didn't have a chaotic physique, so it was inferior to the chaotic domain. The so-called chaotic domain was only created by the heavenly Tao. The chaotic physique was not at the level of the Chaotic Fiend Celestial's potential. Hanju waved his hand and created a Taoist temple before entering. Murongchi did not disturb him. Instead, he wandered around. He had left Hidden Sect Island for 100,000 years. After being reborn, he had returned to his hometown and had a different mood. Hanju took out the Creation Spirit Stone. The Creation Spirit Stone was as big as a human head and emitted a 7-colored light. It was extremely dazzling. He began to think about which Chaotic Fiend Celestial he would create. His first choice was the Strength Fiend Celestial, but the legendary Strength Fiend Celestial was Pango. He was afraid that Panga's image would attract too much trouble. He might as well choose a less influential Fiend Celestial to create first. In any case, there would be more Creation Spirit Stones in the future. The wasteland was endless. Han Tuo and Yi Tian were in a pile of rubble. The two of them were in a very dispirited state and were meditating to heal their injuries. Yi Tian opened his eyes and asked, "Where do you think we are?" The Kanei-chi here is extremely surging, but along the way, we rarely see living beings, and it doesn't seem like a small world. Han Tuo opened his eyes and said, I'm not sure, either. I'm still thinking about how we could escape. Don't you think it was too easy? It's as if someone led us here. Ichion frowned. Something was wrong. Be careful. We'll move in another 4 hours. I feel like something's watching us, Han Tuo said softly as he glanced at a small flag beside him. This was his Dharma treasure that could detect the approach of evil spirits. Ichion took a deep breath. Because Han Tuo was here, he did not panic. The two of them had experienced too many life and death situations together. They both felt that the other party was reliable. 4 hours later, the two of them left on time. At this moment, Han Tuo suddenly stopped and raised his hand to stop Ichion. Ichion stared ahead. Several kilometers away, a white-robed man sat in the air. He wore a stone mask and his white hair fluttered in the wind. His aura was almost ethereal. The two of them couldn't sense his aura, but they could see it. The two of them looked at each other and tacitly turned around to leave. They directly used their full speed and kept moving, quickly leaving this place. Several days later, the two of them stopped. The environment was still the wasteland that had developed their vision. Not far away, a skeleton was as huge as a mountain range could be seen. It was ghastly and terrifying. Damn it, are we trapped in an array formation? Why do we feel the same no matter where we go? Ichion cursed, almost breaking down. They were deity realm cultivators, after all. Flying for so long was enough for them to travel throughout the immortal world. However, here, they still couldn't find the direction to leave. They had tried to fly up, but the dark clouds in the sky were filled with killing intent. They blocked their dermic powers, and they couldn't penetrate them. Han Tuo was also very anxious, but he couldn't panic now. He said, probably not. That skeleton can prove it. It's just that this place is too big. What place is larger than the immortal world? Ichion was moved and muttered, could it be the legendary deity realm of the ruins of End? The deity realm of the ruins of End? Isn't the deity realm of the ruins of End a chaotic space? Who knows? The two of them began to talk in low voices. Ichion seemed to have sensed something and suddenly looked up. His pupils suddenly widened, and he subconsciously took out his Dharma treasure to prepare for battle. The mysterious white-robed man they had encountered a few days ago had appeared here. Han Tuo was also shocked. They no longer fled. If they could be caught, how could they escape? Han Tuo asked in a low voice, what do you want? The white-robed man was stunned. You can see me? Of course, Ichion said unhappily. If not for him not knowing the other party's strength, he would have long attacked. The white-robed man was silent. Han Tuo and Ichion were extremely nervous. Just as they were about to lose control, the white-robed man said, you have the aura of darkness on you. If you stay in the deity realm of the ruins of End, you will be expelled. Hurry up and leave. He waved his sleeve. Han Tuo and Ichion felt the world spin and felt dizzy. When they opened their eyes again, they came to a dark space. Ichion touched his head and gritted his teeth. We're out? Han Tuo did not answer. He frowned. Who was that fellow just now? At this moment, a huge suction force suddenly appeared in front of them and sucked them away. They couldn't resist even if they were at the deity realm. Darkness occupied their vision, and soon, they were on the ground. The two of them immediately stood up, stunned. They landed in a huge cage with dozens of living beings imprisoned beside them. An old monk said faintly, you've also returned. Stop struggling. You can't escape at all. The dark falling prison is near the deity realm of the ruins of End. You've already been tainted by the power of darkness. If you escape to the deity realm of the ruins of End, you will be expelled and then fall back here. Han Tuo frowned. In that case, why did he let us go? The old monk didn't say anything. Tian asked, Old man, you seem to know a lot. Do you know who trapped us? Calamity's vengeful memories came from the calamity of the immortal world. He didn't know the dark falling prison. Dark Sage King, a mighty figure outside the heavenly Tao. He controls the dark forbidden zone, the old monk said slowly. Not long ago, the heavenly Tao sages joined forces and returned in failure. They almost died. How can this be? Han Tuo and Tian were moved. In their understanding, sages were the top existences. The old monk said faintly, So, give up. Since we can't escape, why don't we submit to the Dark Sage King and wait for the situation? Han Tuo and Tian looked at each other. Then, who are you? Tian couldn't help but ask. The old monk replied, Primordial Chaos Buddha. Have you heard of me? The two of them widened their eyes. How could they not have heard of the Primordial Chaos Buddha? However, why did he fall here? Primordial Chaos Buddha looked indifferent, but he was as curious as a cat. Why did this kid look so similar to his master? Could it be his son? Although he was a pseudo-sage, he couldn't deduce the karma of a sage. It was precisely because Han Tuo and Han Ju had similar looks that he took the initiative to speak. 400 years passed quickly after Han Ju used the Creation Spirit Stone. He chose the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial because it was the first idol he cultivated. He had some emotional attachment to it. After fusing with the Creation Spirit Stone, the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial's Fiend Celestial Chi had already condensed into a physical body. Its intelligence was also born. Han Ju could clearly sense it. At most in 1,000 years, the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial would be truly born. Heavenly Venerate Xian do send you a dream. Do you accept? Han Ju, who was cultivating, was interrupted by this notification. He thought for a moment and chose to accept it. In the dream, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was the first to ask, Fellow Taoist Han, what do you think? Give me a signal. Han Ju asked, Are you in a hurry? Yes. The pseudo-sage we sent to suppress the reincarnation mystic realm was captured by the Dark Sage King. Now, the reincarnation mystic realm is already out of control. As long as the heavenly Tao life forms approach, they will be captured by the Dark Sage King. The Dark Sage King is still bewitching the living beings near the reincarnation mystic realm. Can't you sages seal it? Have you already contacted the deity realm of the ruins of End? Yes, we'll wait for your agreement before deciding when to attack. Then attack! Han Ju, who had just finished chatting with Heavenly Venerate Xian Du, appeared. He waved his hand and released the new Dao Field Guard. Li Muyi's replica. From now on, your name will be Dongjua, Han Ju muttered. Dongjua immediately thanked him for his name and left. Then, Han Ju looked at Yang Du. This fellow had already stepped into the immortal realm. Now, he was backed by the 12 over-gods under immortal Emperor Samsara. Nothing bad should happen to him. Han Ju began to screen other suitable candidates. Creating spirit stones were still very difficult to find. Who knew how long it would take for him to gather all 3,000 create spirit stones? Now, he needed 100,000 years to trigger the system's choice once. As for breaking through, it would only happen once every tens of thousands of years, or even longer. Han Ju had to consider a lot about choosing the Fiend Celestial candidates. His gaze pierced through the river of destiny of the Earth immortal world, observing the past, the present, and the future. Observing a person's fate could show their character and actions. 27 years later, Hanju chose 5 candidates and taught them the heavenly cycle body tempering technique. He no longer cared about them after that. If they couldn't survive here, how could they be a chaotic fiend celestial? Hanju returned to the 100-peak immortal river and looked at Hanyu. Ever since Li Daokong started his slaughter, Buzhou Divine Mountain had been tainted by the demons as a dangerous place. Few living beings came to worship it. The entire Divine Mountain was very quiet. Hanyu was already a Grand Unity Golden Immortal and was cultivating in a corner of Buzhou Divine Mountain. Hanju's interest in him suddenly decreased. He was tired of seeing this face. In any case, this kid had already found a backing. He would let nature take its course in the future. Hanju thought silently. In the past, he had wanted to use Hanyu to provoke Han Tuo, but ever since he had gone to the depths of chaos, he knew that the world outside the heavenly Tao was still very large. Han Tuo's opponent would naturally appear. There was no need for him to nurture him. Hanju looked at the heavenly race. The heavenly race was the hidden sect's greatest support target, so Hanju naturally paid attention to them. Recently, there had been something wrong with the providence of the heavenly race. The heavenly Tao was faintly rejecting it. Hanju counted with his fingers and went silent. Although the current immortal world was prosperous, it lacked the most important thing. Rules. Heavenly rules. Before the heavenly Tao was restarted, the myriad worlds in the universe used humans as the foundation. Good and evil were the dividing lines. Their sins were deep and they went to the netherworld to atone for their sins. They accumulated good karma for a long time and established themselves as immortals. Hanju only watched and had no intention of interfering. The mortal world was filled with vicissitudes, and all living beings had all sorts of forms. Sages couldn't control every mortal. Hanju only needed to see the overall situation. If the heavenly race he supported became evil, he would correct it. If he couldn't, he would destroy it and support the new members. At this moment, Hanju suddenly understood the mentality of those sages in the past. The sage sects had been destroyed several times before being reorganized. Could it be related to what he wanted? Hanju shook his head and laughed. He stopped thinking about it and started cultivating. No matter how talented he was, he had to cultivate diligently and not waste time. Year after year passed. Another 700 years passed in a flash. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du suddenly sent Hanju a dream, interrupting his cultivation. That day, Hanju set off for the 33rd heaven. He didn't alert the others of the hidden sect. In the Universal Hall, when Hanju arrived, the other sages were already waiting. Heavenly Venerate Wufang was expressionless. Qiu South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, Fuxishan, and Emperor Shao nodded slightly at him. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du stood up and said, "The deity realm of the ruins of End has already begun to take action. We should leave. This battle must end quickly to prevent any accidents." The sages nodded and disappeared from the Universal Hall. They arrived at the Dark Forbidden Zone, quickly moving through. The aura of a sage was something that the Dark Forbidden Zone could not conceal. Hanju mixed into the crowd and didn't lead the way or end it. Qiu suddenly said, "My subordinate, Primordial Chaos Buddha, was captured by the Dark Sage King. I don't know if he's still alive." The moment he spoke, the other sages also spoke. All the sages had their subordinates captured. The Dark Sage King had offended them all. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate looked at Hanju and asked, "Fellow Taoist Han, tell us, what are your chances?" The sages turned their heads. They had already joined forces to deal with the Dark Sage King before and were not his match. The greatest variable in this operation was Hanju. Hanju's speed of killing Li Mui was faster than the Dark Sage King defeating him. Of course, this was also related to the order. Li Muyi was severely injured by the Dark Sage King first before giving Hanju a chance. No matter what, he was definitely the strongest sage in the immortal world. Hanju said, "I've never met the Dark Sage King. How can I give a clear answer?" Chou understood what he meant and said, "Don't pressure fellow Taoist Han. When we really fight, we still have to pretend to ignore him. Only then can we give the Dark Sage King a fatal blow." Heavenly Venerate Shendu said, "In this battle, I will use the power of freedom. My chances of winning are greater than last time." The sages smiled. With Heavenly Venerate Shendu's words, they were even more confident. Then, they began to talk about the immortal world. Darkness fell. Han Tuo and Yi Tian leaned against each other and looked at the new prisoners shouting not far away. They had mocking smiles on their faces. Yi Tian smiled. "I suddenly recalled the way others looked at us when we got here." "I see." Han Tuo sighed. "I'm almost used to it. Looks like we all have to work under the Dark Sage King, but it's alright. In any case, the Dark Sage King is also stronger than the sages." Yi Tian smiled teasingly. No wonder those old prisoners ignored them. "You want to give up on the Heavenly Tao?" A voice suddenly sounded in Han Tuo's mind, startling him. This voice was not the voice of Calamity's Vengeful, but the white-robed man they had encountered in the deity realm of the Ruins of End. Han Tuo looked around, wanting to capture the other party's existence, but he couldn't see him at all. "Stop looking. I'm in your body." The white-robed man spoke again, causing Han Tuo to fall silent. "What happened?" Han Tuo asked in his mind, "What are you doing?" The white-robed man said, "I want to kill the Dark Sage King and replace him. Are you willing to help me?" "Replace him." Han Tuo fell silent after hearing the white-robed man's words. The other party definitely had something to ask of him. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to target him. Han Tuo's eyes flickered as he asked in his mind, "What do you need me to do?" "Let me occupy your body." "Impossible." Han Tuo immediately rejected. It was impossible for him to give his body to someone he didn't know. What was the difference between that and his current identity as a prisoner? "I'll only be temporarily occupying your body to resist the Dark Sage King." "Impossible. Find someone else." Han Tuo rejected him again. After that, he ignored the white-robed man. No matter how the other party persuaded him, he wasn't stupid enough to hand over his body. Yi Tian noticed something wrong with his expression and asked what it was. Han Tuo sent a voice transmission to say what the white-robed man had told him, causing Yi Tian to be furious. "Ignore him. Even if you give him your body, how can you kill the Dark Sage King who's stronger than a sage?" Yi Tian sent a voice transmission. Han Tuo nodded. After that, the white-robed man no longer disturbed him. In the darkness, the evil Heavenly Emperor traveled quickly. He landed on a floating island. This island was vast, and a bone forest could be seen on it. It was like a group of ferocious demons and ghosts, looking sinister and terrifying. The evil Heavenly Emperor landed in front of a huge stone tablet and asked, "What's the matter?" The stone tablet was surrounded by a black aura. A voice sounded. "The Heavenly Tao Sage will attack again. This time, I will kill him. You will obtain a primordial purple chi." Hearing this, the evil Heavenly Emperor looked up and asked in surprise, "Really?" "Yes, stay and see how I kill a sage." The voice in the stone tablet was the Dark Sage King, the king of the Dark Forbidden Zone. The evil Heavenly Emperor wouldn't question his words. The Dark Sage King was indeed terrifying. The strongest sage of the Heavenly Tao, Li Muyi, was not the Dark Sage King's match either. That was courting death. After leaving the Heavenly Tao, the heavenly Tao sage's strength would be weakened. Before that, I'm willing to preach the Tao to you. Are you willing to accept it? The dark sage king's voice sounded again. The evil heavenly emperor was stunned, and his heart tightened. So the trap was waiting for him here. The dark sage king had already said more than once that he wanted to preach the Tao to the evil heavenly emperor. The two of them were clearly not master and disciple, but he still wanted to preach the Tao. It made the evil heavenly emperor feel that it was a trap, and he instinctively resisted. This time, the dark sage king used the primordial purple chi to lure him. He knew that if he rejected, the primordial purple chi would probably not land in his hands. Evil heavenly emperor looked up and said, I'm willing to accept it. He had left the immortal world for 6 years. Hanju and the sages were still traveling through the dark forbidden zone. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate frowned. Why haven't we found him yet? The other sages frowned and felt that something was strange. They hoped that Heavenly Venerate Xiandu would give them an explanation. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, I'm not sure, either. His aura has been moving and can't be accurately captured. Perhaps he has a bad feeling. After all, those at the deity realm of the ruins of End have also taken action. Hanju frowned. If he couldn't even find the enemy, what could they fight? The past 6 years had been extremely torturous for him. He felt that a mysterious mighty figure could jump out of the darkness to kill him at any time. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu suddenly stopped and closed his eyes. Hanju felt a vast aura descend on him, making him vigilant. This vast aura, Great Tao Divine Spirit, or Transcendent Tao Expert. Hanju often fought with Ancestor Shitian in the simulation trial and had a certain understanding of this aura. The sages stopped. Not only Hanju, but the other sages were also very nervous. Their nervousness came from the Dark Sage King. The previous battle had traumatized them. After a while, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu opened his eyes and said, Found it! He immediately charged forward, the sages following closely behind. The sages constantly tore through space and pressed forward. Several hours later, the sages stopped. The space here was still extremely dark, but a huge floating island was ahead. It looked very abrupt in the darkness. A huge stone tablet on the island emitted purple light and flickered. Hanju swept his sage sense over with a strange expression. There were 2 auras on the island. One was a freedom sage with a powerful aura, and the other was a pseudo-sage. His aura was extremely similar to this freedom sage, like a clone. This pseudo-sage was the Heavenly Emperor Hanju knew. He should be called the Evil Heavenly Emperor now. The Dark Sage King is just ahead. Prepare for battle. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said in a low voice. The sages immediately parted and surrounded the huge floating island to prevent the Dark Sage King from escaping. Hanju moved silently while his gaze landed on the evil Heavenly Emperor. The divine light emitted by the sun and moon yin-yang protection wrapped around his figure, preventing the evil Heavenly Emperor from recognizing him. In front of the stone tablet, the evil Heavenly Emperor opened his eyes and looked over. The figures of the sages landed in his eyes, and his eyes were filled with extreme hatred. If not for the sages plotting against him, how could he have wandered around and ended up in such a miserable state? I didn't expect so many new sages to appear after the Heavenly Tao changed. The evil Heavenly Emperor smiled mockingly. His voice was not loud, but he believed that the sages could hear him. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate frowned in anger when he saw him. He was about to speak when a terrifying aura erupted. TSK, you guys are really not afraid of death. A sneer sounded. The black aura on the stone tablet quickly condensed into a figure. It was the Dark Sage King. Black chi surrounded him as if he was an evil king hidden in the extreme darkness. His eyes were cold and exuded an aura that made even sages palpitate. Dark Sage King, quickly release the heavenly Tao life forms, Fuxishan said with a solemn tone. The Dark Sage King laughed. I really don't know where you get your confidence from. In that case, I'll let the heavenly Tao living beings see how you die. Once his voice landed. Far away in the dark falling prison, Han Tua, Yi Tian, and the primordial chaos Buddha heard his voice and opened their eyes. They saw a projection floating in midair in the cell, showing the confrontation between the sages and the Dark Sage King. Yi Tian frowned. He's really a sage. Some sages had once opened the Tao field and asked the Tao Seeker to listen to the Tao. Han Tua and Yi Tian remembered two of them. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du pulled out a sword from his sleeve. A Taiji painting that emitted endless light rose from his back and illuminated the dark space. Dark Sage King, since you insist on being stubborn, don't blame us for being impolite. Kill him! Heavenly Venerate Xian Du shouted. The other sages took out their Dharma treasures and used their mystical powers on the floating island. Hanju also pretended to take out the primordial judgment sword. His true goal was to insta-kill the Dark Sage King during the chaos. I can't waste time. He had to resolve this quickly and escape. The sage's mystical powers landed on the floating island almost instantly. Black light quickly expanded from the island and isolated all the mystical powers before it was destroyed. The Dark Sage King raised his hand and made a grabbing gesture. Countless Dharma treasures suddenly flew out from the darkness like a torrential storm and swept towards the sages. Chou sat on the golden lotus and transformed into 100 million feet tall golden Buddha. His arms drew a circle, and 10 million arms appeared. He waved his palm in all directions. The wind stirred by the power of the sages made the evil heavenly emperor on the island unable to withstand it. Even with the Dark Sage King's protection, he still felt that he could turn into dust at any time. Emperor Shao transformed into his demonic body. His long hair fluttered wildly. He held a crimson spear and directly entered the island. He held the spear and attacked the Dark Sage King. Sept Master Tianju took out 4 magic swords and formed a sword formation that hung high above the floating island. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate cast spells with both hands and kept chanting. Golden halos descended from the sky and suppressed the floating island. Heavenly Venerate Wufa attacked. He held his sword and kept scattering sword chi, wanting to break through the black light protecting the floating island. A river appeared above Fuxishan's head. Roaring figures flew out and pounced at the floating island. Hanju used his mystical power, unparalleled sword chi. Countless sword chi interwove together and emitted a dazzling sword light that forcefully shattered the black light. Yes? The Dark Sage King's gaze landed on Hanju, clearly surprised. He was clearly a heavenly Tao sage. Why could he break through his dharmic powers? After the black light shattered, the floating island appeared. The sages continued to use their mystical powers. The Dark Sage King fought the sages alone. He destroyed the sages' mystical powers with his right hand and pulled out a huge lightning whip from the darkness with his left hand to lash at them. Caught off guard, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate was the first to be struck. His body exploded and his sage soul was also severely injured. Fortunately, he was a heavenly Tao sage and quickly condensed his body. The entire process happened in the blink of an eye. Emperor Zhao's body was wrapped in demonic chi as he charged in front of the Dark Sage King. His long spear stabbed out and thousands of spear shadows burst forth, piercing through the Dark Sage King and piercing into the depths of the darkness. You're far inferior to the Devil Ancestor and Luo Ho, the Dark Sage King said disdainfully and pointed at him. Boom! Emperor Shao felt as if he had been struck by an invisible force. He couldn't help but retreat. A black hole appeared behind him and devoured him before shrinking. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du raised his sword. The Taiji painting rose behind him. Black and white light circled and quickly mixed into a ball. Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du split into 2 clones. 3 pure ones. The Dark Sage King was moved. He immediately waved his sleeve and moved the evil Heavenly Emperor out. The evil Heavenly Emperor quickly left the floating island and looked at the sage battlefield that was getting further and further away. At the same time, in the dark falling prison, all the prisoners were shocked by the battle in the projection. The speed of a sage was too fast. All sorts of mystical powers were at his fingertips. Even Han Tuo and Yi Tian, who were at the deity realm, were dazzled. Even through space, that terrifying holy might made them tremble in fear. Is this a sage? Isn't Fuxishan a sage of our demon race? How can he be a human race sage? Looks like we have a chance to be saved. The prisoners became excited and the dark falling prison became noisy. Hanju's supreme treasure descended on the floating island with the Dark Sage King's dermic powers. He walked towards the Dark Sage King and shrank the ground into an inch. He took 2 steps and arrived in front of him, slashing down with his sword. The Dark Sage King raised his hand to block, but the barrier formed by his dermic powers was easily broken. Emperor Shao, who had just freed himself from the black hole, attacked again. He said anxiously, "Fellow Taoist Han, I'm counting on you." He transformed into a black beam of light. With the spear tip in front, he attacked with unstoppable force. The Dark Sage King leaped and easily dodged. The Dark Sage King raised his arms and muttered something. Thunder clouds appeared above the floating island and countless black lightning descended on Hanju and Emperor Xiao. Suppressed, Hanju placed his arms above his head, looking like he couldn't withstand it. Emperor Shao was even worse. He was suppressed to the ground by the black lightning. The lightning transformed into shackles and locked him down. The Dark Sage King smiled disdainfully. Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Chou Shilai, Heavenly Venerate Wufa, Sept Master Tianju, and Fuxishan continued to attack. This was the battle of the sages. It was difficult to defeat them in a short period of time. Even if the Dark Sage King suppressed the Heavenly Tao Sage, he couldn't easily kill him. The sages were under a lot of pressure. They didn't expect Hanju to be unable to withstand the Dark Sage King. Now, they could only fight. Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du's 3 pure ones formed 2 extremely powerful Dharma idols. They quickly arrived in front of the Dark Sage King and were destroyed by their swords no matter what mystical power he used. This is Laozi's Dharma idol. The Dark Sage King's eyes narrowed as he was occupied by madness. Humph, even with the help of an ancient sage, all of you will die today. The Dark Sage King shouted domineeringly. A terrifying wind stirred around him and destroyed Laozi's Dharma idol. Turning to look at Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du and standing proudly, he smiled and said, "Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du, you're stronger than before. However, I wasn't serious earlier. Next, I'll let you see my great mystical power. All of you can stay and submit to me." He laughed impudently. Terrifying power surged from the darkness in all directions and entered the Dark Sage King's body. Emperor Shao threw his spear, but it was blocked by the dark power. The sages were moved. They all felt that the Dark Sage King's power was increasing steadily. At this moment, Hanju suddenly appeared behind the Dark Sage King. The 2 fiend celestial Dharma idols above his head waved their palms at him. Imprisonment Fiend Celestial. Barrier Fiend Celestial. The power of 2 fiend celestials stopped the Dark Sage King. This time, Hanju used his full strength. The Dark Sage King was shocked. How is this possible? Fiend Celestial Dharma idols quickly condensed above Hanju's head. Heavenly Constellation Fiend Celestial. Strength Fiend Celestial. Combat Fiend Celestial. Unbeatable Fiend Celestial. Giant Fiend Celestial. Dozens of Fiend Celestial Dharma idols entered Hanju's body as soon as they appeared. He also waved his palm. Primordial Divine Rage. After breaking through to the Freedom Sage realm, the number of Fiend Celestials Hanju could fuse increased greatly. He fused with Fiend Celestial Dharma idols that had powerful physical strength. With a palm strike, the Dark Sage King was instantly annihilated. The Dark Sage King has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, stars. Hanju ignored the notification and waved his palm again. Before his body condensed, he destroyed the soul of the Dark Sage King. No! The Dark Sage King roared hoarsely, his tone filled with fear. The evil Heavenly Emperor, who was leaving the battlefield, only felt the dark power wrapped around him disappear. Hearing the Dark Sage King's voice, his expression changed drastically. How is that possible? The sages killed the Dark Sage King?